Change the world. Rearrange the world. It's time. If you believe in justice, it's time. If you believe in freedom, it's time. Everything is alright. Yes, time. Rules and regulations, who needs them? Open up the door.
And we certainly can. One heart and mind at a time. You're listening to The Center Path. I'm your host, Jay Parker, and for the next 2 hours, it's my pleasure to have Mark Passio from What on Earth is Happening with us. It's Thursday, the 10th of September, 2020, and boy, we've got a lot to discuss, and I'm very pleased to have Mark here tonight, Tavistock Institute's favorite comedian. And how you doing tonight, Mark?
Doing all right, Jay. Thanks so much for bringing me on.
Well, I saw your last What on Earth is Happening Sunday show, and you said, well, I'm going to take a break because I'm beating my head against the wall and I just don't feel I'm getting satisfaction out of doing the show. And I feel your pain.
Yeah, I've come to a point where it's such deep disappointment in not only just the general human condition, which hasn't moved, as far as I'm concerned, an iota in consciousness. As a matter of fact, I think it's slipped far backward from when I started doing this work. I think the Mockingbird media has done a phenomenal job in reeling people's minds tighter in to their grip. I think especially in major metropolitan cities in the United States, the mind control is probably tighter than it's ever been. There are people who still refuse to acknowledge that authority and the belief in it is the overarching problem, and they don't even understand that the entire paradigm shift in human consciousness that must occur if we're going to be free is the rejection in the belief in any being's authority over any other. They still haven't made that spiritual connection and understanding, unfortunately. And what we have in the alleged freedom community are people who don't want to help to educate others as to this reality. They don't want to help educate others as to the objective nature of morality and our rights. And we still have a lot of people who are trapped in solipsism, the solipsistic belief system that there is no truth. It's just whatever my perceptions are, and all perceptions are just as valid as any other. We have people that are still moral relativists everywhere, that think that rights aren't objective, that right and wrong aren't objective, that we can just make them up as we see fit. And when you put all of that together, when you put together people who are solipsistic. They're morally relativistic. They're selfish. They don't care about others as long as the problem isn't affecting them. They don't want to take any time to really help to bring the truth to other people in their own lives. They just want other people to do it, and then they want to complain about how they do it when they themselves are doing nothing. You really have a society that has already collapsed to Satanism. That is what Satanism is. I don't know. Again, the Satanists that I used to work with told me I'd be beating my head against the wall for the rest of my natural life until the day that I died. I didn't believe that, and I thought that was not the case and not true. But after doing this work for the amount of time that I have over the last 13 years of my life, I have to look back in time and say to those dark occultists that they were ultimately correct in their assessment of the human condition and most human beings' minds. And people hate to hear me say that, but I've said from day one on the
Not
very
me.
first, yeah, on the very first show, Jay, that I ever did, I told people I'm not here to be an apologist for humanity. I'm here to tell harsh truths. I'm here to tell people what the truth is. That's my goal. That's my mission. That is my charge. I am not here to tell people what they want to hear. I don't care who donates to me, who doesn't. I don't care who listens to my show, who doesn't. I am not a fluffy, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, so you give me money, resources, time, attention. I really don't care. I'm not interested in anybody putting me up on a pedestal. I'm not interested in anybody, giving me anything. Okay? What I'm interested in is people activating and getting actively involved in doing something about the tyranny and slavery that human beings currently live under. And think about it. You have a population that claims, some of them claim to know that, it's a really bad situation we're in. And then when you ask them, well, what are you doing to help? The answer comes back, total silence, crickets chirping, nothing, a big nothing burger. And then they want to complain about what we do with the massive thousands upon thousands of hours of our time that we, freely and voluntarily donate to give the world information that we don't have to. I look at the whole situation as like I didn't have to speak a word. I did not have to speak one word, but I chose to voluntarily. And all I've asked people in return for the value that they say that my show has ever given them, that all my work has ever given them, is to put it back out there for other people, to add to the chorus of voices. Because that's the way that people are going to change. One person is not going to be able to change this world. No individual is that powerful. I don't care who it is. It doesn't make a difference. You could call on the name of any alleged prophet, any alleged saint or holy figure. It's all utterly has nothing to do with an individual. This has to be a group effort. This has to be an effort of humanity coming together, and the people who say that they want change coming together and speaking a new reality into existence with the power of their voice. And you know what I noticed, Jay? You have keyboard commandos in this whole movement. And I'm talking to the listening audience right now as well, at the risk of offending anyone. It doesn't matter to me. I've gone, absolutely haywire on my own listening audience, quite frankly, with rage, not even anger. I'll keep it toned down for the purposes of your show, but on my show, where I will be completely unfettered in what I really think and use whatever language I feel like is necessary to use to get the point across, I have gone into absolute abject rage at people's inaction because they think they know, they think they understand, and they understand very, very, very little about what is really taking place. I don't care how much you've studied. I don't care how much you've read. I don't care about what you think you know. You know very little if you're not taking real world action. Again, there's an old Eastern philosophy adage: to know and not to do is not to know. See, so the first
Leo
thing...
Piscalia.
That's it. The first thing, okay, is to know, right? And people will claim, I know what's going on. I know about the pedophilia. I know about the Satanism. I know about the tyranny. I know about all the political and financial machinations that are taking place all around us, right? But you know what it is? folks? You know what most of you out there have? You don't have knowledge. You have a claim of knowledge. Because if you actually had that knowledge, there would be nothing stopping you yourself from taking action, no matter what your aspect of life, no matter what is going on in your life, what your life situation or condition is. Now, that being said, I'll qualify it and say, if you're a sickly individual, okay, you might have, if you're disabled, you're ultra sickly, that's a different scenario, okay? But if you're basically able-bodied, if you're basically able-minded, there is no excuse, no matter how, I don't care how many children you have, I don't care how many jobs you work, okay? If you're not adding to contribute to the great work of waking people up in this world, you don't know the world situation and how severe and dire it is. That's a claim of knowledge that you have. You don't have any real knowledge. You don't have any actual point of fact knowledge in reality. What you have is a claim that you know. That's called a claim of knowledge. You're saying that you know, okay? And I'm saying you don't really know. You think you know, but you don't. Okay, and that's a confrontational thing to say to another human being, right? Okay, very confrontational thing to say, that you think you know but you don't. Because if you knew what me and Jay know, you'd be speaking publicly. You would learn the technology to do it, and you'd get involved in doing it. It wouldn't make a difference how old you are. It wouldn't make a difference how many children you have. It wouldn't make a difference how hard you have to work during the day. You'd make the time to do it no matter what it cost you, no matter what you had to sacrifice. That's why I say, do you know what I really want to be able to do with the public? I want to be able to take you and show you the Satanists that Jay and I were around. And let me tell you something, Jay was around far more vicious monsters than I ever were. And I'm telling you, the people that I was around in Satanism were vicious monsters. Okay? And that pales in comparison to what Jay experienced in his life, in his childhood. Okay? Now, if you knew that definitively, what we know, you'd be taking action. You wouldn't be sitting back listening to us. You would be formulating a plan and then putting that plan into action, because you know that the only way to change the world around us is to add to that chorus of speaking of the truth about what's really taking place in this reality. And you know what? That's why the mainstream media is kicking our ass collectively. They're killing us. They're murdering us. They are absolutely beating and defeating us on every playing field dynamic that you could possibly think of, because our side doesn't have the willpower to wage this war, and it doesn't have the knowledge technologically. Whereas they're paying people with unlimited amounts of resources to do their bidding technologically and to put the word out in whatever way they say that they will do it, and heed their bidding and lie for a paycheck. And they have 10 million more souls doing that than we could ever possibly hope to ever really even achieve, because people want their little petty lives for themselves, Jay. That's what they want. They don't want to get involved in real work. They want to say, my life situation, that's way more important than any of this. It's always an excuse. It's always an excuse. And therefore, I've basically said to myself, I'm going to reevaluate. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing, okay? Don't think that you've heard the last of me, because I'll keep talking to my grave, okay? But I'm going to reevaluate what I'm doing, and I'm going to work differently. And some of the material that I put out, you may not see it posted online publicly from this point forward. I may go behind some type of a paywall or some type of a donation wall of some kind and say, you're going to have to subscribe to get this, and I'll make it for people that really, really, really want it, not for the keyboard commandos that what you contribute is a little couple of taps with your fingers on the keyboard to say some snide remarks when you've done nothing your whole life. We have tens of thousands of hours invested in this work. Somebody else has done nothing but tap some complaints down on a keyboard when they've done nothing themselves, because they think that's a contribution. That isn't a contribution. That's called wanting to play with yourself and your own ego. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's an egoic mindset. I've likened it to like me not liking something that David Icke says, or Jordan Maxwell says, or Michael Tessarion says, or Graham Hancock, or anybody who's been doing this for a number of years, and then writing to them to complain. I mean, can you imagine Do you imagine somebody writing to complain to somebody like David Icke with the massive amounts of hours this guy has put in to this work? Regardless of what you think of his work, it's not the point. Okay, the point isn't what you think of somebody else's work. The point is, who in their right mind would? And that's, what I'm saying is, I'm not even saying this to even like belabor the point. I'm saying that this gives us an insight into the current human condition and mindset. This is who's out there. Right? We have a few people who are actually willing to actually put themselves, their voice, their video, put themselves out there, right? But you have you have millions upon millions of souls that have done absolutely nothing with their life regarding this work, but they'll tap on a keyboard because they're anonymous cowards. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an entire body of anonymous cowards out there in the so-called truth movement that will never put their work out publicly themselves with their own voice, their own name, their own image. Okay? Because they're cowards. Cowards.
You can't even get the majority of people to share a really good article on social media. They're
right.
too afraid to even do something simple like that.
That's right.
And I posted some things on Facebook, and I'm like, how is this not getting 1 million shares? I mean, this is outrageous. I have to say that since the COVID lockdown, and I know and you know that it's Event 201, and Rockefeller Foundation Operation Lockstep. And this is the New World Order bowing up and coming in and saying, we're Big Daddy, we run this planet, and we're going to show you which end is up.
That's right.
This has nothing to do with COVID-19 virus.
Of course.
This is all about tyranny is moving in, and they're moving in permanently.
This is what in the world of dark occultism, and occultism in general, but specifically dark occultism, is referred to as the beginning of the process known as the externalization of the hierarchy. This is a point in time that's been discussed by particularly dark occultists throughout the ages. Of when they are going to basically reveal themselves to the world and say, we are the masters of this planet. We are the gods of this planet. We are your owners. We are your masters. You are our slaves. We control a population of enforcers so completely and have them so cult brainwashed that they will do our bidding forever. And they will kill you if you step out of line and say you don't want us to rule you. That's called, in dark occultism, we are now and have been ruled by an occultocracy, a priest class of occultists that is hidden. It is a covert occultocracy. That is the whole nature of the human condition. We are slaves. We are enslaved by a covert occultocracy. This means a priest class of occultists who have ancient psychological knowledge and ancient knowledge about the laws of true reality, of how the real laws of nature work. And that includes natural law, the laws of behavioral consequence. And this dark occult priest class is hidden from most people's sight. They work in the shadows. They work covertly, okay? Because really the real dark occult orders of today are the intelligence agencies of the governments of the world. That's the real dark occult societies of the world, okay? There are many others. There are think tank agencies like Tavistock Institute, the Frankfurt School, like Royal Institute for International Affairs, like, the organizations here in the United States, RAND Corporation, CFR, etc., all these political think tanks as well. Okay, but the real
there's hundreds of them that are really important.
Those are the
Rome.
the front organizations, you might call them, that have an interface with the public, the highest level dark occultists behind that entrenched and enthroned, power, okay, that ostensible realm of power, they always have this ongoing kind of debate between them. I'm not going to even call it a war, because it's not that. It's just really kind of a difference of opinion, that they think, some of them think that they should continue in the shadows, or in the realm of being covert, running this operation covertly, meaning in a hidden capacity, okay? And they want it to continue that way. Now, another percentage of them, which is gaining more and more strength as time goes on, are those in the priest class that say, no, we shouldn't run the world in a covert fashion. We should come out like the emperors of old, like the kings of the ancient world, like the pharaonic dynasties of the ancient world, and even in pre-Diluvian times, the warrior kings, etc. Okay? And just say, we are your owners, you are our slaves, and if you don't do the bidding of the owners of the world, of the gods of this planet, then we will have our minions that we mind control into following our orders, the order following class, namely the police and the military and the National Guard and anybody else who is a member of these mind controlled cult order following class of society. We will have them murder you. That's it. And this is what the slaves of the ancient world, when they definitively knew that they were slaves, and they knew if we go against the master's bidding, the master's henchmen are coming for our lives. They want to go back to that type of a society. It's called neo-feudalism. That's what they want to institute in the externalization of the hierarchy. And here's the problem. All the people of the world who say that they want to be free do not fully understand the psychopathy of this priest class. They say that they do. They make a claim that they do. But when it comes down to it, if you really knew, you would be taking action yourself. All you have to do is ask yourself the question, listening audience. This is your goal, this is your task, whatever you want to call it, your charge from me. Okay? And do with it what you will. It's not my karma, it's yours. Okay? It's your karma, not mine. My karma is perfectly fine, folks. You don't have to worry about me. I've done what I came here to do. I've done my job. I've fulfilled my life's purpose. And probably in a way that most people wouldn't add up to in 10,000 lifetimes, quite frankly. And you could call that an egotistical statement. I really don't care. Okay? I'm going to speak harshly, plainly, and frankly to people. Okay? Because I'm done sugarcoating anything. All right? And all you have to do, listening audience, is ask yourself, what have you actually done in a public capacity with your name, face, and voice on it? That's it. That's all you got to do. Type your name into Google wrapped in double quotes. Put double quotes, your first name, a space, your last name, and double quotes, and hit return in a Google search engine or any other search engine you prefer. And then you'll know how much you've really done. That'll show you, that'll be a little mirror to you about how much you've contributed to the great work of trying to end human slavery on planet Earth. Okay? So before anybody complains about anything that I have to say or have said, go and do that exercise. And then put Mark Passio in there. Okay? Then do double quotes. M-A-R-K space P-A-S-S-I-O and double quotes, hit return, and then see how much work I have out there or how many people are talking about me and my name. Then do that with somebody else like David Icke or Michael Tessarion or Jordan Maxwell, and then put your name in and compare the two, and then you'll see what you've done. That's my challenge to anyone listening. And that's why I'm taking a hiatus, because quite frankly, I need time for myself to tag out of this war, because I'm not going to wage it essentially by myself with people patting me on the back and saying, great job, Mark, now continue to get back in there, okay, when they haven't set foot in the arena of battle at all. Not even once in their lives, because they're cowards. So I'm not going to continue to just openly fight for cowards, because guess what? I don't do this work for human beings. I've said that endlessly, and people still don't get it. I get emails, I get letters, okay? People saying, thank you for what you're doing for humanity. Don't give up on us. Let me tell you something, folks. I don't do what I do for humanity. I do what I do for truth, and because it's the right thing to do, and that's the only reason I do it. And that's the only
Amen.
reason anybody needs to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot be motivated in this selfish world, in this world full of fear, unless you have that spiritual connection to truth, that you understand that you are an eternal consciousness in a trauma-based, mind-controlled collective consciousness. And your job is to wake up the consciousnesses around you to the fact that they are trauma-based, mind-controlled slaves.
That's right.
And people don't want to see reality for what it is. I mean, 800,000 children go missing every year in America alone. Those children are used for human sacrifice and child trafficking. And one thing I have to say for Donald Trump, he has passed 9 laws against human trafficking. And as I've said many times, Mark, pedophilia and human trafficking, it's a sacrament of the dark occult. And so I saw a priestess doing a parade of Satanists in Portland not too long ago, about a month ago. And somebody from a right-wing vlog came up to her and said, what do you think about Donald Trump? And she said, you know, we're totally against Donald Trump because he's taking our rights away.
Wow.
And I was thinking, whoa, she just opened the door up there, because what's going on with Trump? I believe he's fighting the Illuminati with one hand behind his back, but we can get into that. The thing is, even changing the policy at DOJ and stopping the protection of the child pornography and child trafficking rings.
Right.
And if you look at what Trump has done, he's really starting to make progress. You're seeing articles where 75 kids are found in Michigan,
Right.
125 in Ohio, blah, blah, on and on it goes. But what I'm saying is, when I was a kid and you went to the police, they said, good luck in the next life.
Right. Right.
So-
Those torture dungeons are, you know, that's their monetary supply. See, that's that. I would go so far as to say it's not just their ritual and religion, it's their money system. You know, the true satanic elites in this world, or dark Luciferian elites, however you want to look at it, they don't even traffic in gold, in oil, in drugs. That's what everybody thinks, you know, gold, oil, drugs, good old God, right? You know, for the elites. No. Their real source of money, their real monetary system is small children for pedophilic behavior and ritual sacrifice. That is what they truly traffic in. That is what they truly deal in. That is their money system, ultimately. And then the adrenochrome that comes from all of that, you know, without a doubt.
And that's what I grew up in, and that's why when I got triggered in 2001, and I got my consciousness back, or just a small piece of it, I said, well, I'm going to find out all I can about this. And I had memories coming flooding back.
Right.
And I just said, I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to kill my father. That's what they want me to do. I'm going to study this. I'm going to find out about human consciousness, a situation that humanity's in, and I'm going to tell people what they need to do to get free. And I'm true to my word. I'm an eternal consciousness. And so, you know, when my parents would kill somebody, they would laugh and say, we didn't really kill them. They'll just go back to source and get a new body.
Right.
And so to them, they're just killing an avatar.
Yeah, they're just turning off a program in a computer simulation.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's why when they bounce you out in the ritual and you see the blue pyramids, you think, oh, okay, this isn't real. It's a simulacra. But the thing is, whether it's a simulacra, like the Gnostics said, we're in a cheap copy. It doesn't matter, because infinitely, if you study Dr. Bruce Lipton, if you study Dr. Joe Dispenza, Kevin Trudeau, and you find and Tesla, it's all frequency, it's all energy.
That's it.
But behind everything, it may be the goddess's template, but it is the All-Father of the Gnostics that is holding together this thing. I like that Christian prayer, even if I go to hell, thou art with me.
Right.
And that's the consciousness you have to have. That's the understanding of eternal natural law.
Yep.
And commitment to truth and to justice and
That's
wisdom and morality and individual responsibility. There's a lot of stuff you have to go through to get to the point where you'll be a Virginia rifleman.
Right.
That commitment doesn't happen for a keyboard warrior.
That's right.
That's too afraid to share something on Facebook because he doesn't want the neighbors to think he's a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
And the thing is, hey, they come for me. All I have to say, and I've said this to Chip Tatum, the former CIA agent, I said, when they come for me, Chip, make sure they bring plenty of body bags, because they're going to need them.
And,
I'm not going back.
This whole thing where people really do not have enough true information and knowledge about what is really taking place to activate them. See, that it's this whole thing, the steps of the trivium, right? The first step is gather all the information. The second step is process the information so you come to an accurate understanding of it. And many people are even at that point where they've done their homework and they understand what it means. They get it, right? But there's an all-important third step, and that's take the right behavior based upon what you have learned and come to understand as a result of learning it. And if you're not doing that, then you didn't really succeed in the first two steps. You think you did because, I know, I understand what's going on. But if you're not actively out there with you, literally bearing the contents of your soul, if you're not putting it out there publicly, okay, then, and you're hiding, and you're going, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what they might do to me. I'm afraid of what this person thinks of me, right? You're not activated. You're not out there at a soul level. You're still all in the 3D about, what's going to happen to my physical body, or what does this person think? That's all fear consciousness. You have to get into the consciousness of falling so totally in love with truth and having a deep inward care for truth and for freedom that it motivates your behavior. And this is where the reason things aren't changing in the external world is because so infinitely few people, such a tiny little amount of people, have gotten to that last step and activated and actually done something out in the physical world with their actual time, talent, energy, resources, etc. That's what this is about. And you went back to that point of this whole concept in the Gnostic tradition, okay, of, the world is a simulation, but, I would tack on the ancient Egyptians may have even thought of the world like that, as some type of a huge cosmic simulation of the mind of the Creator, but they had this they have two overarching tenets that were taught in the Cometian or ancient Egyptian tradition. And that was, the first tenet was, ignorance is the most evil state of consciousness that you could ever remain in. Okay? like pure evil is not just doing bad things to people, not just doing harmful things to people. Pure evil is ignoring reality first and foremost, because even to do horrible things to people, you have to ignore the reality that there's objective morality and you shouldn't behave like that. Moreover, real evil is just people saying, I don't want to engage in what is real. I don't want to engage in reality. Okay? They don't see, it's like you could even look at it as an ultimate construct of mind. But this goes to the second thing that the ancient Cometians, or the Egyptian tradition, the ancient Egyptian mystery tradition from the Cometian tradition, one of their main tenets was, what happens here matters. See, yes, it's a big construct, right? Yes, it is all some type of an expression of the one mind, or as you called it earlier, the All-Father. Doesn't make a difference what word you use for it. The Creator, God, doesn't make a difference, okay? There is obviously, that's the first Hermetic principle. You know, the all is mind. Everything is a product of mind, of thought at some level of abstraction, okay? Once you know that, right, the first thing is, that is also based upon law. Things aren't random here. They're based upon law. So then to remain ignorant of how the law works in this reality is evil. That's the first tenet of Egyptian cosmology, philosophy, etc. Okay? Evil ultimately derives from ignorance, and they're one and the same. At some level, they're one and the same. Ignorance is evil. That's the first tenet. Okay? And then the second tenet is, what occurs in this reality actually matters, and the individuated consciousnesses, or the souls, the one units of consciousness, monads or souls, however, whatever word you want to use to describe that individuated consciousness, will be held to account for what they did or did not do during this, quote, simulation. You could look at it as a test of your mettle. You could look at it as a test of your ultimate soul character. However you want to look at it, action is required. And the problem is, most people are paying lip service to truth and freedom, but they're not actually taking action to propagate those dynamics of nature. They are just content to let other people do that and rest that burden upon their shoulders, even though with the weight of the world upon the shoulders of those few, it will collapse upon everyone. We are not powerful enough, and anybody saying that they are is a liar. I never made the claim to say I am powerful enough to do this alone. I am not. I am the first person who will tell you I am not. I am an individual, flawed human being that, makes mistakes, tries to learn from their mistakes, but tries to keep pressing forward. But I will admit, I am not powerful enough to change the world on my own. No living soul that has ever lived is, and no living soul that will ever live is. Okay? It has to be a group dynamic effort. And that is how we raise the consciousness of the entire community, of the entire population, of the entire species. But we are nowhere near the number to do that, sadly. Sadly, we are so far away from the number of people that are even doing that. Folks, all you got to do as an exercise, me and Jay laugh about this all the time. Jay says, I checked out your natural law seminar from back in 2013, and he's like, it's a great piece of comedy. And we laugh about it, because it is. It's a big cosmic comedy joke, okay? It's probably the most important video you will ever watch and take into your consciousness in a human lifetime, if I can even be so bold as to say. However, when you realize, if you really take in my natural law seminar and realize what you are watching and seeing, you will see, you almost get a chuckle, okay, out of it, like me and Jay do, because you will see the world is so far away from that level of understanding that I don't know if we'll ever bridge that gap. I think cataclysm will arrive before we bridge that gap. I am more toward the, guess what, folks? I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop. Okay, I might change it up a little bit and do things differently, but I'm not going to stop, right? But guess what? I don't really think the effort right now, as it stands, will avert cataclysm. That is my predicted outcome. And people could say, "Oh, don't make predictions like that." Like, I think I have a handle on where consciousness is at and where it's going. And what you have to look forward to, unless you get on the battlefield and take action, is cataclysm. And that could take many, 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 many forms. Don't think of it just as another great flood, folks, because that's not what cataclysm only means. It could take so many multifaceted forms that you cannot even imagine how many forms of cataclysm can occur. I am telling you, we are on the way to a total collapse, breakdown, and it is going to be a death festival for the archons, the dark occultists, the sorcerers of this world to feast upon. They are going to be harvesting all that dark negative energy like you would not believe, because words of wisdom by people who are speaking them to the people of this planet have gone completely unheeded. They've been derided, they've been laughed at, and most of all, you know what has happened? They've had the finger pointed at them, even though they've done all the work and all the sharing of this data and information. They had the finger pointed at them, and other people go, "You should do something differently. You should revise your method. You should go and do this. You should talk about this or that." And you know what they're doing? They are sitting there with their thumb up their rear end, playing with themselves, doing absolutely nothing but talking, running their yap about how somebody else is doing it, instead of getting on the field of battle and doing something themselves. It is the equivalent of a war being waged all around, soldiers in a battle trench, and the enemy soldiers, 1,000 of them strong, are coming with battle rifles, and one soldier is handing a battle rifle to another and saying, "Shoot back at the enemy," and they're going, "I can't be bothered. I'm going to just look at your technique and complain about it." That's exactly the allegorical viewpoint you have to look at it from. Picture two soldiers in a battle trench with other soldiers, and they're going to get demolished by an oncoming army. The army's coming at them with guns drawn, okay, running to come in and completely wipe them out. And one soldier's handing a battle rifle to the other soldier and saying, "Hey, help us shoot back at the enemy." And the other soldier's going, "Nah, I don't think so. I think I'll just sit here and watch and complain at what you guys are doing." That's the equivalent. Okay? And that's exactly where most of the listening audience is at. On this network, and I don't care who I offend, that's where most of you guys are at. Okay? The people listening to my show, I don't care who I offend, that's where most of you guys are at. Okay? Everybody out there listening on social media, I don't care who I offend, that's where almost all of you are at. There's a handful of you that doesn't apply to, and you need take no offense then. The people who will take offense and get angry at what I've just said are the people doing nothing. The people who will not take offense and not get angry about it know that I'm not talking about you, because you have done something, and I appreciate your efforts, and so does anybody else who's doing the true great work. We appreciate the effort of any of our peers who are actually taking real world action. But you know what? That's about 1% or less of the people out there listening, viewing, just saying, "Oh, I'm trying to take more and more in." At some point, you can't just keep taking things in. It's selfish, okay? You're a leech at some point, okay? Just like people who just download, never contribute anything, okay? It's called re-upload something to the consciousness of the world. Don't just be a leech downloading and taking in more and more information and data and doing nothing with it. You're not helping. That's not helping, okay? Get involved in actually taking action. That's helping. And be bold about it. Put your name on it. Put your face on it. Put your voice to it. You know, everybody wants to hide behind a keyboard. I've noticed that the people who have the most knowledge, actually, Jay, you know what they are? They're the people who are out there putting videos out with their faces on it. Their voice, their face, their real name. We're using our real names, ladies and gentlemen. Jay is Jay Parker. That's his real name, his birth name. My birth name is Mark Passio. We're not afraid. We are putting our name out there. That's it. You know, we're putting our image out there. We're putting our voice out there. It's called having guts, having courage. You know, our courage is there to influence and inspire other people. But unfortunately, people are still cowering under their, in their basement. You know,
Mark,
yeah.
I don't find it a point of courage, because in studying Bruce Lipton, Kevin Trudeau, um, Joe Dispenza, I know enough about human physiology, psychology, spirituality, that I get a broad picture of how the miracle game is played, and that's what the gray aliens call Earth, the miracle game. And so I go like, okay, so this is a spiritual contest between good and evil, and I get to choose what I manifest in my behavior.
Sure.
Period. Stop. End of story. So it doesn't matter to me whether I walk on water or not, but I tell you, I in doing what I'm doing, not as prolific as you, but I can say for a truth that I've counseled quite a few SRAs, and they call me up, and I tell you, I'll sit there for 2 hours and listen to someone just cry their hearts out.
Yep.
But I'll do that because I'm doing it for a higher power
Right.
that uh, is the real truth of life, and I believe in life, and I think life is good, and I think consciousness is good. It's a good thing, and so I'm going to stand up for it. I appreciate, I was looking at a tree that my neighbor has planted, and at the base of the tree, he has river rocks,
Mhm.
rounded river rocks, and they're all wonderful different colors. And I thought to myself, every time I walk by that, I think that's the attention to detail that Creator put in something as simple as a river rock. That's how much beauty he put in that.
Right.
And we had such a beautiful planet, and we've turned it into a strip mall.
That's right.
And I'm amazed. My jaw is dropped at the amount. As the Geisemoff has that famous quote, "You believe that your ignorance is as good as my knowledge."
That's right.
But we are in a place right now where you believe that your lies are as good as my truth.
It's gotten that extreme. You're right.
And it's totally gotten extreme. And did you hear about the fracas with Cuties on Netflix?
I have. It's disgusting. I mean, I can't even believe anybody's even picking up for anything like that. It's
But
crazy.
I've been saying for the last 6 months since COVID came, I said, this is the universe shoving it right in
your face.
face.
That's right.
Right in your face.
And think about
See,
it. People.
and this will enable the culling of the herd.
Right.
Because if human beings do not stand up against these pedophiles,
Yep.
then the green light is go ahead.
That's right.
Knock them down.
That's
Let's
exactly
go back to
right.
Pointy stick world
Yep.
and start all over again.
It's it's basically like evil is coming forward and saying, "Will you stand up against this force?" And if it doesn't, all cosmic protection will be pulled from Earth, if you want to even look at it that way, or essentially all the nature forces of the universe will say, well, time for this place to go because it has become totally consumed with ego and falsities and lies and acceptance of evil. This whole thing of tolerance for everything. No, we should have tolerance of our basic differences, of our basic preferences and life choices and how to live, things like that, as long as it's not damaging other people's lives, rights, and freedom. Once you get into initiating, violence against other people's lives, rights, and freedom, then you have to take a stand, and there should be no tolerance for that, because that is tolerance for evil. And that's where we're at in our society. We want, the total control of government openly worshipped. We want pedophilia openly practiced. It's like, what do you think the nature forces, or the creator of the universe, or however you want to look at those dynamics, is going to do to a population of souls that has been this tolerant of evil and immorality? You think it's going to have mercy upon it? You think it's going to say, oh, well, just keep going the way you're going? No, it's going to bury us ultimately. It's going to be, again, as I said, cataclysm, and if not worse, total slow descent into total tyranny, from which the human species will not be able to escape, and will become something subhuman as a result of experiencing. We're already on the way to that now. But, it's like a great allegory for this is the movie The Box. People should check that out. It's with, I'm trying to think of the star, Hollywood actress, Cameron Diaz, right? It's the movie is called The Box, okay? And it's
a
like
great movie.
Yeah, these extra dimensional entities kind of bring a box to a husband and wife, and he tells them, you will receive $1 million in cash if you press the button inside this box. Okay, it's all it is a little case with a lid, and there's a button, and he says if you press it, you'll receive $1 million tax-free in cash. No questions asked, but you must know that if you do press it, one human being who you do not know will die. And he doesn't tell them any more than that, and he leaves the box with them. And the whole movie is about, are they going to press the box or not, the button in the box or not, and of course they do. And, the whole idea is that he tells them, you've already pressed the button, and you have to deal with the consequences of that now. You have to deal with the immorality of your behavior and the consequences that brings you in the physical reality that you are living in. And when they realize this is all a test, and other people are being tested in the same way all over the world, they are asking him, like, what is this about? And he's like, this is about the judgment of humanity, and whether you will be able to even continue. And it's like, she says, well, what, or one of them says, what is the criteria? Like, how are we going to be judged? And he says, the only thing is whether you press the button on the box or not. And all you guys have to do to get your act together is don't do it. Don't press the button. And basically, when he is asked how many people press the button, he's like, all of them press it. That it's so few people that will take a stand for what is right when they're paid enough or given enough, little prizes or gifts in life that they want. There's so few people that won't do evil for enough resources in the physical reality that we live in, that it's almost like nobody will say no to it. And this is what we have to get to. We have to get to a society that says...
The human race, can I say this?
Sure.
The human race has been kicking the can down the road for generation upon generation upon generation, not dealing with this base evil of a trauma-based system of solipsism in the world.
Right.
The mind, the worldview is totally corrupt.
That's right.
And rather than turning around and saying, hey, let's do it a different way, this is wrong, they just shrug and say, hey, this is the way we've always done it.
Exactly. And they think it's not possible. Like, that's why I love your intro music. We can change the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. And most people will go like, oh, I just thought you said it's not going to happen. No, I never said we can't change the world. Now, listen to vocabulary because it's important. Take really deep note. People hear what... See, a big dynamic of this is people hear what they want to hear. Their brains, their minds, their whole personality, their makeup wants to hear certain things, but it doesn't actually listen for what's actually being said. It hears what it invents and wants to hear, and it twists meaning. Right? This is a big problem with all of my work over the years. That's why most people don't understand what I've said from day one, because they've never truly been listening. They've been hearing what they want to hear, and they haven't actually heard what has been said. There's a big difference. This is a translation problem inside the mind. It's a dictionary incompatibility problem. You're looking for the meaning in your own internal mental dictionary. And when you look up what I've said in your internal mental dictionary, there's a different definition that's in than what is in my internal mental definition dictionary. Okay? And that's the problem. That has to be bridged by studying enough, listening intently enough. Okay? Actually learning how to think and hear what's being said instead of what you want to hear. Okay? So the whole idea is, I said we can change the world. Okay? Can implies possibility. Is it possible or is it impossible? Well, if you believe it's impossible, you might as well shut up and accept slavery right now. Okay? It is possible. It is possible. I never said it was impossible. I said, based on the trajectory we headed and the consciousness we have now, if that continues on this trajectory, which it seems like it is going to, we have no chance. It is going to become impossible. It is going to go down that road to cataclysm and total slavery and tyranny. Okay? We're already most of the way there. Okay? Can it be changed? Yes, it can. What are the requirements for that change, right? Well, the requirements are certain action must be taken, worldview must be changed, attitudes must be changed, and ultimately behavior must be changed. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. But here's the kicker, folks. Here's the key. Here's the thing you have to really listen for. Will human beings fulfill those requirements? So there's a gigantic world of separation and difference between can, meaning possibility, and will, meaning taking action. Anything can happen, okay? You can build a skyscraper 10,000 feet tall if you did it right, okay? Will someone do that? Well, someone hasn't done that yet, but can it be done? Yes, it can be done. There are methods to do that, okay? Will it be done? I don't know. Will someone go through that, labor to actually make that occur? It's all a matter of behavior, of action in the world. Well, can we change the reality that we're living in? Yes, we can. But will we? Is the only question that needs to be asked. And you know who's going to answer that question? When you look in the mirror and you say, what am I doing about it? That's the question you need to ask. You don't need to ask what Jay Parker's doing about it. Jay Parker's done plenty about it. You don't need to ask what Mark Passio's doing about it. Mark Passio's done plenty about it. The question you need to ask yourself, listener, is what are you doing about it? Look at yourself in the mirror. That's where the shadow work takes place, folks. Okay?
No, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's right. They'll give a million excuses for why they can't do it. No, you can do it. You won't do it. There's a difference between can and will. And it doesn't make a difference what your excuse is. You could blabber out your gullet endlessly till the day you die, excuses, and that's all they'll ever remain. They will only remain excuses, and that's all most people have for inaction.
The point of understanding by Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Kevin Trudeau, you realize we as human beings are the most powerful broadcasters and receivers of energy and frequency.
That's right.
We're in a collective consciousness. So when you get rid of the solipsism and you become a true human being that's tied to natural law and to truth, you broadcast into the field a totally different signal of freedom.
That's powerful. That is powerful, without a doubt.
Compared to someone who's under mind control, trauma-based mind control, it's 10,000 times more powerful. That's why the dark occult is putting the hammer down now.
That's right.
Because the web has woke up way too many people.
Yep.
But, I just want to say this before we go to break. Well, sure. Actually, we're not getting commercials.
Oh, nice.
Interesting. I just want to say that I was talking to someone today, Mark, and I said, our situation is this. They've been spraying chemtrails since 95. only 20% of the human race acknowledges the chemtrails, the geoengineering.
Do you know how many peer-reviewed papers in scientific journals and literature there are on geoengineering? There's so many thousand you couldn't possibly read them all. Just go on any scientific literature-based journal website and type in geoengineering and see what comes up. Or type in stratospheric aerosol injection.
CFR and said, "Hey, we're doing this."
Right.
You know, what more do you need when you have the head of the CIA saying, "Here we go"?
But people don't usually know how to research that. Go to any science journal website. Type in science journal website. Doesn't matter which one. Okay? Then type in stratospheric aerosol injection and see what comes up. And if that a lot don't come up for that, type in geoengineering. Or better yet, go to LibGen and go to their scientific article section on libgen.is, libgen.is, and type in geoengineering or stratospheric aerosol injection, and I'll bet you get hundreds of papers on it, of scientific peer-reviewed papers published in scientific journals. And what? Scientists are talking about nonsense? Nothing? Oh, they're right about everything else, though, and people worship them like they're some kind of saints or gods. But if they talk about geoengineering or stratospheric injection, suddenly they're fantasy people. They're just making things up. This is what people just don't know how to do research. That's the problem. They don't know how to use technology. This is the whole thing. Is like from day one, I've been telling people action is required, but they didn't understand what I was saying. It means you have to learn publishing. You have to learn how to publish. Do you know how to write a book? Do you know software that does that? Do you know how to make a podcast? Do you know audio software? Do you know how to publish that? Do you know how to make a website? Do you know how to make a video and publish it? Whether it's on YouTube or library or BitChute or just making a documentary and putting that out on a DVD or a flash drive. Does the listening audience know how to do this stuff? That's the problem. The problem is most people only have a little bit of knowledge in their minds. It's probably not even complete knowledge, and I'm not saying anybody's is 100% complete about everything, but some people don't even have the big picture. They have a partial picture in their mind about what's going on in the world. And then those who even do have a really big picture, deep grasp of it, long history of it, okay, long view of history about what's taking place, they don't know how to engage in publishing technology. They don't know how to put that material out. The other thing is people don't even know what they don't know. They don't know how much work goes into like running something like a website, webmastering that. They don't know what goes into running a 24-hour-a-day station. It's like something like Revolution Broadcasting. It's so much work. It's a lot of knowledge and putting together time, resources, energy, hard work. And people don't want to do it. They want to live their lives and have their little pleasure pursuits, and that's what's going to put us into the big overall, prison planet situation. We are not going to get out of this unless people sacrifice their own time, effort, resources, energy, etc. You got to put blood, sweat, and tears into it. You have to get actively engaged in the battlefield, and it is going to cost you. I am not here to blow smoke up your rear end and tell you that this is going to be some wonderful party. It's not. It's not a wonderful party being in this mess, and it's not going to be a wonderful party to get out of it. It's going to be hard work to get out of this mess that humanity is in collectively together as a species. We have to be willing to sacrifice and engage in this spiritual battle of information, and it's going to take putting down what you want to do with your life for a time, or at least a little bit. If 1 million people did it, right, or if 10 million people did it, it would get done faster and it would be less work for everybody. But everybody's saying, I don't want to put my money toward that. I don't want to put my effort toward that. I've been asking people for 3 years or more, Jay, to lend some of their time, talent, and expertise to come and help me. Okay, here in Philadelphia, in a greater metropolitan region of over 4 million living beings. Okay, and you can take people out who are young, or let's say you even reduce it by 50% when you get the young and old out of the equation who are not going to be capable of that, and then able-bodied people, mentally able people, people with skill sets. Even if you had 1 million people, okay, that had the, somewhat of an ability, right? No, hardly anybody has come forward and manifest, even helping me with something as simple as help me technologically. You can't even ask for a team effort. There have been people remotely who have done it, but I'm just saying it's just in your local area, it just shows you how scattered to the four winds of the earth anybody who really understands is. The people who think that consciousness is changing and people are waking up in mass, I don't know what you guys are smoking, but it's really bad drugs. Because if anybody thinks that a worldwide awakening is occurring, you're delusional. You're very, very exceptionally delusional people. You don't have your finger on the pulse of human consciousness at all. Because what's really happening is the control is getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and more people are less willing to say no to evil. They will take whatever resources they are given, and they will say, yes, sir, I will do that for you, sir. We have more order followers than there have ever been. More people willing to do violence to other people for money than there have ever been in the history of humanity. We are living under more duress than humanity has ever lived under. All you need to look at that is how many people have shut down their businesses and want to open them. Well, why would they continue to keep them shut down if they want to open them? Because they're under the threat of violence by police who will do violence unto them if they keep their business open during this whole hoax. That's it. That's all it comes down to. And that's called slavery. That's called one class of people claiming authority and ownership over another class of people that they need their permission to operate and do anything. And if they go against their bidding, they will send henchmen that are violent. That's the other thing with networks like this, okay? The people on listening to networks like this, that's why I don't go on group networks anymore. Because so many of the people who listen to networks and who are even on them, they don't have the big picture. You don't understand authority is an illusion. It's a euphemism for slavery. Government is slavery. Police officers are slavery enforcers. That's all they are. Military are slavery enforcers. That's all they are. Get as offended as you want to get. Doesn't make a difference how offended you get. It will never make the statement untrue. Ever. The statement is true. You're wrong if you think otherwise. That's a blanket true statement. Okay? Order followers are bad people. All of them. 100% of anybody following an order is a bad person. The end. Forever. Eternally. And if you don't think so, you're wrong. Confrontationally. I don't really care what you think. That's the truth. That's the objective, absolute truth. Okay? And most people who listen to networks like this, who are on networks like this, they haven't figured it out yet. You're still blind to that fact. Totally blind to that fact. And people don't want to hear it. They want to think, oh, some cops are good. No, all cops are bad people. There is no such thing as a good cop. All soldiers are bad people because cops and soldiers are order followers. A member of a militia can be a good people because if somebody says, go do this, and it's an immoral order, they're like, I ain't doing that. You're not swearing any allegiance or saying, I'm taking an oath. You're saying, I'll do this task if it's truly based in truth and freedom. That's what a real militia is. Okay? But a military soldier is saying, I am a cog in the machine and I follow orders of my commanding officer. A cop is a cog in a machine. And if he doesn't follow his orders, he gets fired. That's it. That's what people in these institutions are. They are order followers. And they are the implementers of the dark New World Order. They are the implementers of the New World Order of slavery. Those are the people who will do the bidding of the occult overlord masters, of the sorcerers of the world. That is the people who actually take the behavior and do it and implement it.
If you think that Mark's going too far, all I have to say is 2 words: Australia and Great Britain.
There you go.
Look at what the police are doing there. Okay?
And you don't think that will come here? You don't think
out of time.
Yeah, you don't think that police would do that here? Anyone listening to this broadcast, you don't think the police of America would do that to you and our own people? You're delusional. Delusional. Yeah.
They're doing it right now.
That's right.
Look at that Belmar gym. They just marched right in there and arrested that guy.
Yep. That we think we're so much more moral than the Stasi. You know, then we think we're so much moral than the order followers of the Soviet Union. We think we're so much more moral than the communist Chinese. We think we're so much more moral than the Nazis. There's no more morality in the world. Even in this country, there's a tiny bit more in America, maybe. Maybe. I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt by even saying that. You don't think that there is as much immorality in the willingness to follow authority, in what it tells people to do? All you have to do is look at the Milgram experiments. Type in the Milgram experiments, Milgram, into a search engine, and watch a video about the Milgram experiments. 85% of human beings willing to go to a lethal dosage of electricity, shocking another person just because an authority figure told them to do it. And then they repeated this. This was done in the 1960s and 70s or something around that region of time. Okay? And then they repeated the experiments in the early 2000s, and they got the same percentages. Nothing had changed in regard to human morality over a 50-year period. A 40, 50-year period. Nothing. Zero. Nothing. Okay? The same percentage of people were willing to shock their fellow citizens to the death if ordered to do it by an authority figure. And they weren't even being paid to do it. They were just being told, we accept responsibility. You don't have to accept responsibility. Imagine if they were given a nice chunk of money to do it. They would do it in a heartbeat to their own mother. You know, or their own sibling. I mean, this is how immoral people are on this planet. And that's all we have to ask ourselves. All you got to do to ask yourself.
This is where, you know, I've been talking a lot about, you know, what's going on, centering on, you know, what Trump administration has done and is doing. And basically, I had a show the 27th of July, and I spent 2 hours just tearing Trump apart. And basically, I'm all about MAGA. Let's bring back our factories. Let's bring back our constitutional law, our Bill of Rights. You know, if that's make America great again, let's do it. But the thing is, that's not really what's happening. We're being shown certain things are being done, which are good. But the real hardcore stuff that needs to be done to reform this society, Trump is not touching.
He's rolled over like a dog being petted on his belly to these real occultists behind the scenes. He hasn't stood up to one mayor of one city. He hasn't stood up to one governor of one state. These are unconstitutional, unlawful, under natural law lockdowns to control human movement and the ability to engage in making a living. I mean, imagine telling people that they can't make a living and have to go on the government dole. It's forced socialism. Trump was put in there. They actuaried it out. They ran it in actuarial supercomputers, and they realized if they put him in over Hillary Clinton into the office of the presidency of the United States, that it would fulfill two roles. And this is why they chose to do it probably late in the election cycle of 2016. They chose to do it during the campaign trail of 2016. The real power brokers behind the scenes chose to do that for two reasons. The first would be they recognized it would politically polarize the left of this country far more than any other unique thing that could possibly have been done. The left has been radicalized because Trump is the president of the United States, and anybody with half of a brain in their head can understand that. Okay? That's why he was put in. They want to swing the pendulum when it swings back to the other side so hard it ain't ever going back again politically toward the left. They want outright communism, which is neo-feudalism. It's international socialism. That's what communism is. That's the form of neo-feudalism that they have recognized that most of the people will get on board with. They're not going to go on board with national socialism, okay, which is bringing the culture of one country to the whole world. International socialism will let culture remain in all different countries but bring them under an umbrella of a centralized government dictatorship. That's what communism, worldwide communism is. Okay, it's the difference between national socialism and international socialism. The power brokers of the world decided long ago that they were going to go with international socialism after they saw the failure of national socialism in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. Okay, when they realized that people would not accept the military conquest like that and overt rulership that the Nazis wanted to bring in through their ideology of pan-Germanism, the real power brokers behind the scenes, the dark occultists that are the real mind controllers and sorcerers of this planet, decided we're going to go with international socialism instead of national socialism. It's all the same thing, folks. It's all socialism. It all gets you to the same place, a cage. It all puts you behind bars in a big prison planet. Okay? So when they made that decision, this is what they're attempting to implement. And the whole thing is Trump was put in there to swing the pendulum in that direction, to get a bunch of people radicalized on the left to be eager to bring in their brand of international socialism when the pendulum swings back to the left, which it already has and is going to. I would be highly shocked if he's allowed to take a second term. I think they'll stage a military coup before even allowing that. But the second reason they put Trump in is to manage the early stages of the receivership of America. That's it. The financial receivership, which is the bankruptcy of an entire nation. That's the second reason he was put in there. And they actuaried it all out because that is his specialty in business. That's it. That's all it comes down to. That's the two reasons. The main reason is they wanted the political balkanization, the polarization. The second thing is they realized while we have them in there balkanizing the political parties against each other and radicalizing the leftists for the coming socialist takeover of America, he will be using some of his financial understanding, which is what he has done during his financial career, to take the country into the early stages of receivership, which is happening now. That's it. It's the only reason Trump's in there.
You know what I heard? I was listening to Greg Hunter, USA Watchdog, and he had Mark Skidmore of, I believe, Illinois University. He works with Catherine Austin Fitz, and it's a missing 21 trillion, that professor.
Right.
And so they have a thing, Mark, called, that they do at the Fed, called churning. Mm-hmm. And what churning is when you have bonds that are due, you sell new bonds to get up cash to pay off the old bonds. And it's called churning. It's like you're churning butter, right. Only you're churning debt.
Yes. Well, you're bringing more interest into the equation, and that's more actual asset debt. Yes.
So Mark Skidmore is talking to Greg Hunter, and he goes, well, in 2019, the amount of churning done by the Fed was $91 trillion.
How long is that going to keep your children and great-grandchildren in receivership slavery? I'd say probably several centuries, probably
in 1 year.
Yeah.
And Skidmore said that's enough churning to cover a debt of 123 trillion. So we're being told we're, 25 trillion in debt, mm-hmm. but we're churning
an additional 91
paper,
right,
to cover 123 trillion.
Right. Sure.
And I'm just saying, when the wheels come flying off this wagon, which they're going to do in October,
what kind of hyperinflation, hyper stagflation that will equate to?
Well, when
That'll
we
be like
lose,
$1,000 to buy a loaf of bread. You
we
know,
lose the reserve currency,
that'll be
and
the beginning of the and that'll be the beginning of the dominoes. If the petrodollar falls as the world reserve currency, you better get your food and ammo together. You better
well,
get
when
your
it
ability
happened
to
to
defend
England
yourself. Yeah.
in 1950s, in 1 month, their cost of living doubled
Yeah, I would say
in
that
one
would be a
month.
conservative estimate at this point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what would happen if people actually knew we're 123 trillion in debt?
Right. Well, that's stealing money right out of people's own savings. It's a hidden tax. This whole, churning, or the other one is what's the other one? When they just turn on the printing presses, the
Hmm.
um, not liquidity. It's uh, the Fed. What is the Fed call when they inflate the money supply? It's um, something. I'll think of it. But you know what I'm talking about. They,
Yeah.
they, they print more money. There's more in circulation, so it's devalued, and that reduces people's purchasing power. Quantitative easing. It just popped into my head. Churning and quantitative easing. These are hidden
Well,
taxes. That's
when
all it
I
is.
think of quantitative easing, I just think of anal rape.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Just a euphemism for saying we're going to reduce the value of the money. See, people don't understand that that's what inflation is. Inflation isn't goods and services costing more. Inflation is the purchasing power of the dollar is diminished. So you need
mhm.
more of the unit of currency to get the same goods and services. And people don't even understand something that simple when it comes to economics. So, these are all tools at their disposal. But, ultimately, people have to get out of this whole notion that there's any political solution to this. There is no political solution. There's no political
Absolutely
savior.
not.
There is only a solution in human consciousness to say no. We
No,
need to
it's
learn.
it's the person in the mirror.
Yep. We
The
need to learn to
person
say
in the
no.
mirror has to change their worldview
That's right.
and has to change their spirituality into one that's in alignment and harmony with natural law.
Right.
I mean, I tell you, I've met some Christians that are real Christians, and I've met a lot of Christians that are fake.
Yep.
And all I have to say is you can really tell the people that are on board with natural law.
Right.
It's the commitment to do good
Right.
is just
Action.
primary in their life.
Action.
Nothing is more important than the great work.
How many people know in general what's going on and have taken no real action in their lives to put out anything publicly, to speak to the world, not to speak to just your family members or friends? That's going to go a little ways toward helping, but I'm not talking about just having a private conversation. I'm talking about archiving information, putting information out there into the world, and then having it be able to be stored for posterity. Every single thing I've ever done is online and downloadable, and I have it all archived here as well. If I die today, everything is out there. My words have been immortalized because they've been put on the publishing platform known as the internet. And it's out there. And people can get access to all the information that I have put out. That's helping. That means that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 and a quarter days a year, people can go somewhere and get your information, get your words. That's what this is about, ladies and gentlemen. It's putting the information up onto a public forum so that people can benefit from it, and doing it without fear, doing it by putting your name on it. Show these people you're not afraid. And ultimately what it comes down to is we have to stop complying. When are people going to say to their husbands, wives, in government, in police institutions, in the military, you're going to have to just do this yourself. I will give you no support. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to be with you. We have to separate from dominators. We have to separate from people involved in violence. Government is violence, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have the right to do any of the things the government does because there is no such right. People don't get granted magical special powers. Special magical powers don't get granted to people because somebody signed a bill into law and said you're allowed to do this. It's all nonsense. It's BS. It's a hoodwinked game that they've played with humanity forever. Every human being has the same rights. There are no special rights that some people have that others don't. You just believe that and bought into that BS because you've been told signing something by some ritual in government, going through this process of signing a bill into law somehow grants rights. No, it doesn't grant rights. If you didn't have the right as an individual to do something, you can't get the right by delegating it because the people who delegated it didn't have it. See, if an individual doesn't have a right to do something because it's a wrong, because it initiates harm to another sentient being, then nobody can magically be granted that right and it become a right. There is no such thing as somebody saying, you can take that action, I give you that right when I don't have it myself and none of us have it, but we're going to give it to you as a group of people because we say so. There is no such thing. It's all just BS, folks, and most people have never told anybody that. Most people have never heard that. There is no such thing as the delegation of a wrongdoing. You cannot delegate a wrongdoing. It's like somebody saying, well, you can go over there and kill that person. You can go over there and take their resources. You can go over there and stop them from exercising their rights. If just the average person walking on the street just told you you're not allowed to engage in free speech, or I'm going to censor you, or I'm going to stop you from putting that substance in their body, you'd want to pull out a handgun and blow their head off. You wouldn't say, oh, well, are you an authority figure? Or are you somebody who has special rights that can tell me this? You wouldn't even ask that question. You would be ready to throw down. Okay? You wouldn't be saying, well, let me check and see if they're a person with the credentials that is allowed to control me this way. That's all government is. It's euphemized slavery. It's slavery that we call government. That's it. That's all it is. Government is a euphemism. It means you're giving a nice name to something to prevent people from understanding what it really is. It's slavery. It's always been slavery. It will be nothing other than slavery. And if you don't understand that by now, you're not spiritually awake. You're completely asleep. You are completely and utterly spiritually asleep if you believe authority exists and is valid morally. It is invalid and absolutely, morally, completely, and utterly, there is no validity to it whatsoever. It is completely it's not a valid moral construct at all. It's I'm blanking on the word, but
Never has
yeah,
been.
right, yeah.
Never has been.
And yet,
But-
how many
but the
people,
thing-
even
the thing
listening to
gets
this
me-
broadcast, Jay, think that it is? How many people do you think that it is and haven't gotten that far yet spiritually?
Well, I talk in terms of a minarchist, not because I am a minarchist. It's just like, okay, how do we deal with this leviathan of the dark occult called government? So slowly but surely, maybe if we just took bits and pieces out of it, we could slowly get free and then realize. But, the main thing I want to say is I agree 100% in what you're saying because it's the truth.
Right. And the thing
is, until we start teaching our children properly,
right,
instead of handing them over to the government to be trained Marxists, forget about it.
the word I was looking for is morally legitimate. It just popped in my head, and I apologize for that blanking. There is no legitimacy to it. It's a claim. Authority is a claim. And the reason people don't understand that is they don't understand natural law. They've been told their whole lives.
Mark Rose's The Greatest Superstition.
Right. That's one
Mark
way of getting
Rose
it.
Nails it.
That's right. That book is, it's a primer. Anybody that isn't familiar with that needs to acquaint themselves with that book. And it's short, It's maybe a little over 100 pages. It's easy to read. There's no, huge vocabulary words or big run-on sentences. It's written very succinctly and plainly, in plain language. And it's just great moral philosophy. And that's the problem.
One of my favorite memes of yours is the picture of Jesus, and I'm an anarchist, but most of my followers are
statists. Right. See, the idea that anything except the moral laws of nature have any legitimate moral authority over any individual consciousness in nature is completely morally invalid, and it's not legitimate. It's morally illegitimate. And that's the problem, is that people do not understand the basic difference between right and wrong. That's what it all comes down to. As simple as that. I want to repeat that, and I want the listening audience to really listen to what I'm saying. The entire problem with the world today stems from the fact that almost every human being on this planet, when it comes to ratio, when it comes to percentage, the overwhelmingly vast percentage of the human population, I would say probably 99.5%, and I'm probably being generous. It's probably more than that, 99.8% if I had to actually really make an educated guess, does not actually know the difference between right and wrong. 99.8% of all human beings on Earth do not actually, for real, know the difference between right and wrong. That's the whole problem of the human condition. And you ask people, do you know the difference between right and wrong? All you need to do as an experiment, do you know the difference between right and wrong? And everybody's going to say yes, because most people are liars. And they're not going to ever acknowledge that they don't really know the difference between right and wrong. They just say that they do. They believe that they do, but they don't know it. They think they know it, and they don't know it. They believe that they know it, but they don't have that real knowledge in hand. They have a belief system in hand.
That's the main point between... I remember Christ saying, there's a big difference between believing and knowing.
That's right. And in the book of Hosea,
it talks about knowing.
Right. And in the book of Hosea,
is where
go ahead.
Internally in your entire being, you've got a commitment unto death.
You've destroyed all doubt internally, and it's absolutely through every energetic aspect of your being, and you are going to be committed to that fully, where you have no existential doubt about it. Okay? See, in the book of Hosea, you mentioned Jesus saying that there's a big difference between believing and knowing, and putting that into practice. But in the Old Testament, in Hosea, it says, "My people have been destroyed for a lack of knowledge." And this is what we're seeing today. And the knowledge that they're talking about is the difference between right and wrong behavior. People don't know natural law, which is God's law. It's the laws of the creator of the universe regarding morality and the consequences of behavior. And we are seeing the consequences unfold because the vast majority of the people on this planet are immoral beings who do not know the difference between right and wrong and aren't interested in that knowledge. They don't want it. They don't want to do the work of knowing it. They don't want to do the work of destroying their existing immoral belief systems in their own mind. They think the world's going to magically change when they don't have to change. That's what they erroneously believe. The world doesn't.
All we need is a better king.
The blue avians are showing up. Trump's here to save us.
All we need is a better king.
That's it. But ask them, what are you doing to change your mind regarding the definitive knowledge of right versus wrong? And there is a definitive knowledge of right versus wrong. Oh, yes, it does exist. Whoever is out there thinking that doesn't exist, or that's just a construct, or that's just, something that only exists in human, subjective, thoughts in the human mind. No. Incorrect. You are eternally incorrect if you believe that. There is objective truth regarding what behaviors are rights and what behaviors are wrongdoings. Absolutely. definitively, objectively true differences between behaviors that are rights and behaviors that are wrongs. And this is the problem, is that people have not committed themselves in their understanding and in their study to actually learn that distinction. They will not do it because they don't want the responsibility that comes with that knowledge of conscience. Conscience is the knowledge of the definitive difference, of the definitive objective difference between right behavior and wrong behavior under natural law. That is what conscience is. And you just break it down in the word. Science. Con means with or together, and science means to know, from the Latin sciere. Okay, that's it. To know together. Common sense. Common sense knowledge is the knowledge of conscience, of the difference between right and wrong. And here's what we have. We don't have that knowledge. We don't have that conscience. People don't even have the knowledge of conscience, and let alone are they exercising their conscience to choose right over wrong, because they don't even have the knowledge of the difference between right and wrong. Okay? In the Old Testament, in Genesis, they talk about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay? And to eat of that tree did not mean to learn the difference between good and evil. I hear this completely asinine in biblical interpretation of Genesis all the time. It does not mean that you think you know the difference between right and wrong, folks. There is such a thing as knowing the difference between right and wrong, because that's objective knowledge, and those are the laws of the Creator. Of course, the Creator of the universe wishes that knowledge to be known. It's not dangled like unknowingly forever, like a torture. It's dangled before somebody. It's something that they can never reach or know. That's solipsistic mindset, to say no one can ever know.
Say you can never know.
Can never know. Exact solipsism. Exactly. Of course we can know the difference between right and wrong. Okay? What in biblical terms the allegory was about is, it's a mistranslation and a misunderstanding of the contextual understanding of the verse in Genesis. It is not saying you're forbidden to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because you shouldn't claim to know good and evil. You shouldn't claim to know what good is, what evil is, what right is, what wrong is. No, that's wrong. That's a wrong interpretation. The true interpretation, it comes from the Hebrew, the translation. I don't recall the actual verb in Hebrew off the top of my head, but to eat. It's a mistranslation of the context of the word that they translate as to eat. It means to arbitrate. Okay? The real translation should be, you're forbidden to arbitrate what good and evil are, the fruit of the tree of good and evil. That may not be arbitrated. Okay? The verb to eat is mistranslated, because to eat, what does to eat mean? It means to consume, to take into oneself. Okay? The mistranslation is, to take into oneself does not mean to physically eat consume with the mouth, like taking a bite of something and swallowing it. Okay? That's not what it means. It means to take it upon yourself, to arbitrate the difference, which means just think of it however you feel like thinking about it. If you think it's good, then it's good. If you think it's wrong, then it's wrong. That's called moral relativism. It means that there's no right and wrong. It's just up to our preferences and whims and subjective interpretation. Okay? That's Satanism. That's why it was the one forbidden thing to do, is never proclaim yourself the arbitrator of right and wrong. And this is what almost all of humanity has done. That's why we're kicked out of the garden. That's why we are ejected from the garden and of the paradise and going into the total prison as a species. Because we have assigned ourselves to be the arbitrators of good and evil. We have assigned ourselves to be the arbitrators of right and wrong. Not to discover what they are, okay? Not to discover according to the natural laws of creation that are the Creator's laws of the universe what right and wrong actually are, and yes, they are discoverable, eternal, and true principles. Okay? But we as a species have said we are going to arbitrate for ourselves what right and wrong are. So we are going to make up the difference and distinction between right and wrong in our own minds subjectively. That's moral relativism, and it is the second tenet of Satanism, right next to pure egotism. And if you just look at how much of the world is egotistic and morally relativistic, that's all you really need to know. You want to know what the dominant religion of planet Earth is? It's not Christianity, it isn't Islam, it isn't Judaism, it's Satanism. That's what Satanism is, folks. You think Satanism's worshiping the Christian devil? You're delusional. You're delusional about what Satanism is. Okay? That has nothing to do with real Satanism. Satanism is the worship of the self, putting yourself up on the egoic pedestal as the God and the only person that matters, and screw everybody else, and I'm not responsible for helping educate other people, and I only care about my own stuff, and screw everybody else. That's Satanism. Okay?
And look at Cain. I am not my brother's keeper.
There you go. How many people said to me in the truth
movement?
movement?
Somebody who is attached to natural law is your brother's
That's
keeper.
right. That's right. It's
You
my
are
responsibility.
the defender at the wall.
Yeah, it's my responsibility to put the truth out there for other people's consideration regarding morality. Absolutely. You know, the Creator doesn't have a physical voice. That's expressed through us, and we speak our reality into existence. The universe is spoken into existence. This is why we are small c creators. We are a miniature version of the creator of the universe at a small scale. We are not that force, but we are a mirror of that force because we have the power to use our voice. That is how the world was created. The universe was created by the Word, speaking the Word. And you know what the word that we have to speak right now to really create a different reality? The word is no. It's the lost word. It's the word that people will not do. They will not say no to evil. Again, this is the allegory in that movie, The Box, right? All the people had to do to change the human condition and not go into slavery was say, no, I will not press that button. I don't care how much money you give me. That's a wrongdoing, and I will not do it. But the allegory is telling people everybody presses the button because everybody has their own price to do the wrong thing. Whether it's feeding my family, whether it's this is my paycheck, whether, it's this is what is expected of me. I don't care what the excuse is. There is no excuse for continuing to do a behavior that you have no right to perform. And all the police and military, you're the ones who are doing all the wrongdoings in the name of these Satanists. And all that karmic debt is coming down upon your soul. And you're going to find out. You think you're not going to find out, but guess what? You're going to find out. Okay, you take 2 large big inhalations of DMT and you tell me there's no spiritual dimension to this reality. Okay, you're going to find out because you're going to be in something that is even beyond that realm when your flesh falls away, and you're going to be held to account. You will be held responsible because what you do here matters. Watch the movie Gods of Egypt. It's all about that whole tradition. The whole allegory is about, yes, this could be a huge spiritual construct where there are other dimensions of being and existence, but guess what? What you do here ultimately matters, and you will contribute value to this place to make it better or worse.
Well, I have to say that in my life, coming out of Arden, Delaware, like Joe Biden, I'm just amazed that an Arden alumnus is running for president.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I put up on social media pictures of Joe Biden's house in Arden when he was going to Archmere Academy for high school. And my brother came home one day at probably 64 and said, I met this kid today. His name's Joe Biden, and he's going to be a big deal someday.
Sure. Yeah,
so they had already planned out that Joe Biden would be a big deal.
Of course. They groom these people from childhood and probably torture them, and that's how they take on the programming, and that's how they're just total demons inside themselves in their own soul. They're psychopaths, and they'll do anything. There's no limit or bottom to what these psychopaths will do. And that's the problem. We're letting them do it. We're not saying no to them. And that's the thing. The more you wait to say no to evil, the more blood it's going to cost. That's it. The more blood, the
we're,
more
we're
we
headed,
wait.
We're headed for just the wheels are going to come off the wagon.
That's right.
To where people's jaws are going to drop.
They're not
when
psychologically.
They see how bad
That's
this
right.
really is.
They're not psychologically
the dark
prepared.
occult is setting up the world for a collapse that has never been seen.
Nope. Biblical proportions of like the deluge. Yeah. So, the whole thing is people have to make a commitment and ask the question. Here's the takeaway of all of this, folks. Everybody listening to the sound of our voice, if you claim to somehow be in any way spiritually awoken or hip to what's going on, I don't care what word you use, woke, awakened, conscious, doesn't make a difference, okay? If you claim to know what is going on this planet at the current time we are living, the only question you need to ask yourself, you need to stop worrying about Mark Passio, Jay Parker, David Icke, Jordan Maxwell. It doesn't make it who you listen to. Stop worrying about it. Talking about Alex Jones this or anybody. It doesn't make a difference. Okay? You need to stop asking, what is anybody else doing? And you need to stop pointing the finger externally and externalizing your power. And you need to turn your fingers around and point them directly at your face and say, what have I done? And what am I doing right now? That's it. That's all you need to ask. That's it. And guess what? Everybody will do anything in their power to avoid asking and answering that very question, because they know what the answer is. I know what the answer is. I'm not some fool that can't see the dynamic or the handwriting on the wall. I know how many people have really been active in doing this. Believe me, I could gauge it real quick. Okay? I'm sharp as a tack when it comes to gauging dynamics like that in consciousness. And I'm not afraid to say that I am. Okay? You know what the answer to almost the entire audience listening to the sound of my voice, with very, 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 very few exceptions. The answer is, you've done nothing. You've done absolutely nothing. And guess what? That makes you responsible. That not only not makes you responsible, it makes you complicit. It makes you complicit. Okay, not just responsible because you've sat and done nothing with any amount of knowledge. It makes you complicit in the evil. Complicit in the evil. Get as offended as you like.
Well, the number one thing on the mystery schools was know thyself. And I keep telling people, EFT, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, read their books.
Sure.
And go within. Christ said, if you go within and bring what is within out and make that your life, you're going to succeed.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just going to spin your wheels in the mud.
Right. If you bring forward that which is inside of you, that which you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth that which is inside of you, that which you do not bring forth will destroy you. Absolutely. And that's the shadow work, folks. Jay has talked a lot about methodologies of shadow work and resolving traumas through different techniques. I always talk about the hardest method. The hardest approach is literally and non-figuratively. This is not a metaphor or an allegory. I tell people to do this exercise. Get a mirror in your house, a large one. If you have a full-length body mirror, that works the best. Okay? Take a chair that is comfortable to sit in and put it in front of the mirror. Okay? Turn off all technology devices. Turn off your cell phone. Turn off your answering machine. Turn off your TV. Turn off whatever other devices you have. Okay? Make the room comfortable at a comfortable level of lighting so that you can see yourself in the mirror, but it not be too bright and distracting, okay? And sit in front of that mirror and look at yourself and be with yourself quietly. And then start asking these things to yourself. What have I really learned about true morality? What have I learned about true consciousness? What have I contributed? Forget even just your personal life. You could talk about and ask yourself those things. Have I truly been a good parent? Have I tried to instill real morals in my child? Have I not made excuses for myself? Have I not just accepted narratives that are put out there? Is my mind strong so that I'm not easily influenced by falsities and lies? You have to sit there and ask yourself these questions. This is what I had to do. When I came out of I used to be with these people, working with them at a low level, admittedly a very low level. I was in this cult. I was in the satanic cult that runs the world for a time of my life. I had to sit there with myself, painstakingly ask myself, what did you just get involved in? What did you just do? How much damage have you done to people in the world by putting out falsities and lies that you now know to be falsities and lies? And how many people bought into them and hurt themselves as a result? I took on all that karmic debt without even doing any physical behavior. That's just mental behavior and putting out words that are false. And I was involved with them, aligned with them psychologically and in my heart where it was in the past. When I realized that these people were enslaving everyone, including myself, and I decided I'm going to start speaking out against this, I had to sit for more than a year, longer than many years actually, and ask myself these hard questions. That's the deepest shadow work there is to do. Trauma resolution, yes, you can do all these different techniques and it will be an assistant. It will assist. There are assistive techniques, and you could do EFT, you can do, meditation, you could do any number of probably hundreds of techniques that we can, you can look into, shamanic techniques, etc. But there is no ultimate substitute for a personal dialogue with self while actually sitting there quietly and looking at your own image. And that's one of the things people would fear more than death. Most people would fear an exercise like that more than death itself. They would rather die than do something like that. That's how much they hate themselves. That's how much they are afraid of what they will find deep inside of them if they ask those introspective questions while sitting quietly with their own being. That's the real shadow work. That's what I challenge people to do. And then the number one question you have to ask yourself is, knowing that the world is in a state of slavery, what have I actually done in a large way, in a large scale way, to change the result that we are headed toward? And I'll tell you, you can physically gauge that as well. You can gauge that quantitatively, not just subjectively with the shadow work exercise that I just told you to do. You can gauge it definitively by typing your name wrapped in double quotes into a search engine and seeing what work of yours comes back at you in that search engine result. And then you'll know what you've done. So don't complain about other people's work, folks. If you don't like what you hear from somebody else doing work, then shut it the hell off and go watch or listen to something else. And don't complain about it. Go get active in the battlefield and do something yourself.
Louise Hay, who does Hay House, great story. She cured herself of cancer, but she does a book called Mirror Work, and it's all about these daily, in the mirror, face-to-face affirmations and things that you put into your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And I use EFT to actually retrain my subconscious.
Right.
I don't just tap frivolously.
Yes.
I aim at getting truth into my subconscious mind.
Because you'll tap on a meridian line. The EFT system works through meridian energy in the body. Yeah. So you'll tap on that and it'll take it into certain, deep places in the subconscious mind. Sure.
Well, I mean, everything I went through as a child in the rape and torture rooms was aimed at, as the programmable state progressed, they were warping the synaptic pathways in my brain so that my body chemistry and my mind were solipsist, total solipsism. And they're making, Leo Zagami, I say it, Stuart Swerdlow. Uh, Over 10% of the human race, and Kathy O'Brien agrees with this, is dark occult generational Satanists. And people have no idea. There's 40 million mind controlled Satanists in America, and they're coming to take over.
Jay, when you
right
first
now.
gave those numbers, I thought it was outrageously high. I no longer really think that because I realize how deeply entrenched the old religion is. And it's everywhere. It's all around us. It's all around us. It's our neighbors.
Leo Zagami, and while Swerdlow thinks it's 15%.
Wow.
But Leo Zagami, I was talking with him and Sasha Stone, and I said to Zagami, my mother says it's 12% back in '63, and he said, oh, it's that and then some.
Right. Yeah.
And so I have no doubt that there's, and these people are trained and put in positions of power in the military, in the police, in academia, in medicine to control society completely. And you're seeing the fruit of what they've worked at for the last 60 years. They're coming now. They're decloaking. The mask is being taken off. And they're saying, you're going to stop us? I don't think so.
You've seen the fruit of what they've been working out for the last 6,000 years. Really, but they've ramped it up in the last 6 decades.
600.
Sure.
Definitely.
Yep.
Because I believe that the human race went into a state of shock. And the dark occult said, hey, everybody's in shock. Time to take over.
Yep.
And they've been running the show ever since then.
The censorship mechanisms are there to, try to prevent this information from getting out. That's why we need more people speaking the truth. We need more people putting information on alternative platforms, making their own websites. People have to get engaged. You have to learn technology, folks. That's the battlefield. Well, if you don't understand that the internet's the battlefield.
Jack about technology, even though I'm taking your course. But I'm telling you right now, I go on Weebly.com. I get a free website.
Right.
In 2 or 3 days, I can put a site up.
There you go. You're doing this show right now, so you know enough about technology to get your own radio show, contribute value to the world, put the truth out to people. That's doing something. And Jay is admittedly a novice when it comes to computers. He's understudied under me a little bit, a tiny bit. But guess what? That shows you what you could do with even a little bit of information technology knowledge.
I said I know nothing, and yet I know so much more than most people.
That's right.
Most people are completely ignorant. I mean, they can't even make a flyer up.
That's why they don't want people using computers. They want them using phones and tablets where it's not really a creative tool, it's a consumption tool. They took the powerful desktop computer out of most people's hands and they handed them the little black slab, the fondle slab, and what can you really make on that as far as media is concerned? Not much. And that was a plan in and of itself. That's a social engineering plan. But ultimately it really comes down to, folks, is you got to ask yourself, what are you doing? And you got to get actively involved because action is the only thing going to change this, and we have to fall in love with the word no. That is the lost word, to say no to evil. That's the whole message of this entire, this 2-hour broadcast ultimately is say no to evil. Don't have tolerance for evil. When you are asked to do something that is immoral, you have to stand down and say no. And that's it. And don't go forward. It doesn't make a difference if you lose your job. It doesn't make a difference if you don't have a paycheck coming in. You go find something else to do. There's plenty of moral work.
The universe will back up your commitment.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It always has for me.
Be bold and mighty forces come to your aid. If you are moral, the universe will come up under you and cradle you, and it will say, well, let's see what you could do next. You've given up that immoral pursuit, and you'll see that your life will turn around as a result. It may not happen in 30 seconds, folks, okay? But, give it 3 months, and you'll see you pull away from immoral behavior, even for a short amount of time, okay? You're going to see big positive changes happen in your life. That's how karma really works. It works over stretches of time. It's not instantaneous. But if you do it and you make it a practice in your life, you will see that your life will change for the better, and you'll contribute to changing all of the lives of the whole human species for the better.
Well, thanks for coming on, Mark.
You got it, Jay. If anybody wants to further check out my work, you can go to whatonearthishappening.com. That's my main website. And you could check out all of my podcasts in order at your own pace. That's what I always recommend that people do. Just hit the podcast tab and go in order. And then you can watch my videos as ancillary support to those podcasts in the podcast section. So, Jay, I want to thank you for having me on the show. It was great. And I wish you all the best, and thank you for continuing to do the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Mark. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thank you.